if there is something in your life that's not working right now, or it's not working as well as you would like it to, consider that it has to do with focus. Part of it has to do where you're focusing on. Like, do you have a plan? Because for those who are, let's say, in Life on Air, we have created these visions, right? So right now you have your vision. Ask yourself the question, the stuff that I'm doing on a daily basis, is it stuff that is getting me closer to the vision? And if it's the other way, where it's like taking you further away or it's not getting you closer, it has to do with focus.
Hey everyone, welcome to Life in a Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. I'm joined by Polish Peter, my Polish co-host, who's making goofy faces right now and throwing me off of my lines here. And listen, on Life in a Show, what do? Well, we help people make more, work less, and create lives and businesses they love. And so I'll tell you, Peter, one of the things that has been on my heart recently that I really wanted to share, it's been on my mind, I've been having a lot of conversations with people about this, I think it's so easy for people to focus outside of themselves and focus on things going on in the world and focus on the news and what's on social media. And they forget that most of this stuff really doesn't impact them, yet they let it distract them to the point that they don't do the things they need to do. And this conversation is the one that I've had a lot recently. And I want us to have a discussion for our Life in Our Show listeners that is empowering to them, that can encourage them to focus on the things that are important. And please know, everyone listening right now, this isn't coming from a place of judgment, of pointing fingers, of negativity. This is coming from a place where we want to, I hope you see, is our intention here is not to criticize, but to kind of encourage that when you focus on the right things, your life can transform. If you focus on the wrong things, you're going to have a harder time. And that's it. And so, man, do you see this as well?
Yeah. And in fact, I mean, a lot of my conversation with my students over the past year almost have been around focus, right? Have been around which way do I need to focus? How do I need to do this? And because guess what? Out there, if you look out there in the world, there is a lot of quote unquote uncertainty, right? And there's a lot of different things going on. So if you start focusing on that kind of stuff, guess what you ultimately start getting? You start getting some of that uncertainty feeling for you. And I want to point something out too, before we keep moving forward in this conversation, is this. If you look out what has happened over the past year, some companies have been doubling, tripling in their profits, in their revenues, in their business. And the time where it seems like it's crazy times. Some companies have been going out of business. I will tell you this, and one of the biggest reasons why the companies who are being successful is because of the focus, is because of where they're looking, what they're looking to do, and how they are actually taking on whatever is going on in their business, right? Some of those businesses are pivoting. Some of the people, their pivot and their focus on putting that focus and that energy into that. So that I'm telling you guys this so you can see how important focus is, even on your daily basis. Think about that. As you get up in the morning, as you're going around your day, are you being productive? Are you being, time managing well and all that kind of stuff? If you're not getting stuff done, what's going on? And a lot of it has to do with the focus. It's not necessarily in that particular time, but the focus that happens outside of that time, if that makes any sense, right?
Not really.
Facebook or whatever the case may be.
Okay. Well, so listen, you mentioned businesses, but like that's just a consequence of people's personal focus, right? No business is going to succeed without the owners, the directors, the leaders, the employees having to focus on what they need to do next. And so even more so, the most important thing is like what you as a person, as an individual, focus on. And what I mean by that is, do you have an internal frame of reference or an external frame of reference? That's the first question. Meaning, are you worried about what you can do, what you can accomplish, what you can achieve, or are you worried about everything going on around you, outside of you? Are you worried about and thinking about and focusing on who's in the White House, the price of gas, a comment your mother-in-law made to you? Is it COVID? Is it things being shut down? Or are you taking, and which, by the way, most of the things that I see people struggle with and focus on are things that are outside of their control or they have minimal influence on, right? And so this is probably one of the biggest points I want to make on this episode is that when you focus on the things that you can control, now you are empowering yourself to take on the world, head on, right? Conversely, if you focus on things you have no control over, not only do you feel powerless, but you're robbing yourself of the time and the attention that you could use way, way, way more effectively and productively. And this is a problem I see, man, where, people are spending a lot of time worried about, hey, my taxes are going to go up, or, hey, this is happening, that's happening, all these things around them, which I'm not going to say you don't have to be blindly ignorant to them or to just like ignore them completely and whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you don't need any awareness of that stuff. But when you focus on the stuff that you can control, like that is where the magic happens. I kind of call it, I just made this word up, Peter, you're going to laugh at me, like your perimeter of power. What's the boundary around you of things that you actually have a huge influence on? Do you wake up on time? Are you going to work out? Are you eating right? Are you getting around the right people? Are you doing the right steps, taking the right actions? What are you doing? Focus on that. Don't worry about the other stuff because the other stuff isn't going to help you.
All right. That's a great point that you're bringing up of the focus thing and where you control. I mean, where focus goes, energy flows, right? And this is one of those quotes that I follow, all my students know about it.
Is that Dr. Seuss motivational speaker? Because it rhymes. Like it seemed to.
That's Tony Robbins.
Okay, that was my second guess.
Yeah, but where focus goes, energy flows, and a lot of it has to do with the control. A lot of people who are struggling. I will tell you guys this from my experience and what I've learned from mindset and human behavior and all those kinds of things. When you focus on stuff that's out of your control, you'll never gain the control in your life. You're going to keep struggling. You're going to keep being stressed out or whatever it might be, right? And the things that are out of your control and the things that you can't really do anything about are the things that are going to keep you where you're at right now.
Yeah.
They're not going to move you forward. They're not going to allow you to grow. They're not going to allow you to progress, to contribute to other people. And a lot of it has to do, I think, and this very well, Wojo, too, but I think truly it comes down to people's needs and how those needs get impacted, like the 6 human needs that we talked about. I think the people who are, constantly looking for out of the stuff for out of their control is the people who are looking for certainty in life, right? And I want more certainty and want more certainty. So if I'm looking outside and seeing what's going on out there and how things are affected, and there's so much uncertainty and all that kind of stuff. So I want to do stuff to make sure that makes me feel good that there is some control I've had. So I'm going to start researching. I'm going to start looking for different articles and I'm going to start looking at different videos and all that kind of stuff. Because when I start learning about this stuff, I feel deep down that I get some kind of control. That I learn something new that makes me feel better about it, right? But what ends up happening is all those different things that I'm learning about, that I'm spending time on, that will make me feel better about, that I have something in control, is actually keeping me away from doing the stuff that I really, truly should be doing, whether it's in my business, whether it's with my family, whether it's with my kids or significant other. It makes sense?
Yeah.
Because you can only do one thing at a time.
Well, that's the thing, man. It's a double whammy. So not only are you actually sabotaging true certainty and true confidence because you're focusing on things outside your control, but the second whammy is that you're taking away your ability to do that because now it's the time component, it's the attention that is diverted elsewhere. And so you're getting it from both ends, right? And so it's a really, really slippery slope. And, you were saying something that reminded me, I think for a lot of people, Peter, it's easier for people to worry about stuff outside of their control because I don't know exactly why, but I think one of the reasons why is because like when you take personal responsibility for your life, that can be a scary thing. When you actually admit to yourself that a large 98, 99% of where you are in life is a result of your decisions and your actions and not your environment, not your circumstances, that's super scary for people. Now, by the way, if you're listening right now, yes, I know crazy things have happened to people, just terrible, unexpected, but also you got to accept, if you're going to say that those bad things happen to you, you also have to accept the good things, right? You can't just selectively choose like why you're at your life and choose all the negative things that have held you back. You have to look at the good things too that have fallen into your lap. But it's so much easier to not take responsibility and just play kind of the victim card a little bit and say, hey, I don't have a job because because of taxes, or because of offshore job migration, or because of blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. You have to, I think, but when something magical happens, and it can be scary, I know, but when you take responsibility and say, this is on me, it's incredibly powerful. Peter, I'm rereading Extreme Ownership by Jocko.
No wonder why you're talking the way you are talking.
Yeah, I'm talking like this, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great book, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Great book, but it has so many applications to life. It's called Extreme Ownership. Take ownership of your own life, regardless of what happens, regardless of what's in your control. Some people will say, oh, well, this happened to me. But yeah, that's true. But you got hit by the car, but you were standing in the middle of the road, right? Like, so again, this is coming from a place of love, because I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people, what's worked and what's worked incredibly well, and what people have struggled with and what they've had a hard time with. And it's the people that take responsibility, that focus on this stuff we talked about, the things within your perimeter of control, within your perimeter of power, that are the most successful. And I think, Peter, too, it's scary to take responsibility, because if you have a hard time or you fail after you've taken personal responsibility, that hurts a whole lot more, right? Than blaming somebody else. Like, because then now it's about you, it's about your identity. And that can be scary.
Right. And then what pops up for that is, am I good enough to do this? Right. Because now if I take the responsibility and I start doing it and it doesn't work, then I guess I'm not good enough at this or that or whatever. And that's a scary part. But here's the thing. Well, we're trying to get you guys to hear is that if there is something in your life that's not working right now, or it's not working as well as you would like it to, consider that it has to do with focus. Part of it has to do where you're focusing on. Like, do you have a plan? Because for those who are, let's say, in Life on Air, we have created these visions, right? So right now you have your vision. Ask yourself the question, the stuff that I'm doing on a daily basis, is it stuff that is getting me closer to the vision, or it's kind of going off to the left, or it's kind of going around it, or it's even taking me further away from my vision? The stuff that I'm doing on a daily basis. And if it's the other way, where it's like taking you further away or it's not getting you closer, it has to do with focus. So what I would, have you guys consider is like, pick something out of your vision that you really want to achieve, that you want to go after, then maybe in the next week or the next month or whatever the case may be, and start creating some kind of a plan. Because when you have a plan, when you have some kind of an action steps, when you have some kind of waypoints to go after something, all of a sudden you start regaining some of that focus, right? Because a lot of times, think about it this way. When you go through something that was unexpected, maybe it's some kind of traumatic thing, or maybe it's something like, last year when the COVID hit, it was completely unexpected for the entire world, right? What ends up happening? Everything that you thought that was kind of even keel gets shaken up, right? Everything is like kind of all over the place now, right? Like you don't know what's going on. What do I grab onto? What do I look at? Where do I go? What do I think? Should I listen to this? Should I listen to that? Should I believe this? Should I believe that? Right? So all those things are all up in the air. So what ends up happening is because of that, you start looking at that kind of stuff. And by that default, you get all over the place. Does that make sense? Because what ends up happening is you're focusing on stuff that's outside of your control and it's all over the place. So by the default, you're going to be all over the place. So the way to get back to where you were before is you really got to refocus. I talked about that one of the episodes, I think I talked about the squirrels, right? and there's squirrels all over the place. And all those squirrels are digging holes. And now you got to start figuring out which hole do I want to start focusing on, which squirrel, right? So be careful which squirrel you're focusing on. You got to pick the one that's going to get you closer to your vision. And that is one of those things that can help you to refocus, to regain that control in a way, and refocus to get you to where you want to go. Because guess what? The companies, the people who are being successful right now are the ones who are capable and able to refocus based on what is going on out there. They look at what's going on out there. They see what's happening, but then they make a choice. Okay, so how do I pivot? Like, for instance, restaurants, right? What did they do? They saw that everything was closed down and they decided, okay, so what would be the thing that we would need to do in order to survive? Well, they started doing carryouts. But instead of starting to looking all over the place and thinking, well, they're doing carryout, they're not doing carryout, this is a bad idea over there, and we can't do carryout because we have this problem or that problem and all that kind of stuff, and start looking all the different things outside of their control. The successful companies, okay, here's how we're going to do the carryout, here's how we're going to execute, and we're just going to start doing it. And before you know it, you're kind of sucked into those steps in the process. And then all of a sudden people are calling your restaurant and now you're just executing. And you are kind of forced to focus on that path, on that rabbit trail, on that kind of a squirrel. Make sense?
Are you asking me?
Well, I mean, from what you're the only one right now listening. I mean, there are a bunch of other people listening.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing, the biggest thing I heard is when you have a vision, the vision will give you the focus, right? You're going to say, regardless of what life throws at you, whether it's a worldwide pandemic or you lose a job or your car breaks down or someone, your taxes go up. You look at the vision, you see, what do I want? And how am I going to get there? Regardless of all this other stuff going on here, how am I going to get there? Because a lot of people, Peter, I don't even think a lot of people ask the questions. Many of the people didn't ask the questions you just mentioned. They were so focused on the news. They're so focused on the hysteria. When we're talking about COVID, for instance, and things shutting down, the people that were successful were like, how can I, if they have a business vision, if they have a goal, if they have an ambition they're trying to pursue, how can I continue to do this? And those are the questions that led people to solutions, right? So don't focus, and you've heard this before probably, don't focus on the problems, focus on the solutions. When you're talking about solutions, the only solution is what you can do. Nobody else is going to fix your problems, right? This is nobody else is going to fix your problems, I assure you. And so you are your best resource, right? You are the best tool in your toolbox. And so like, you got to work on you. And I love that the vision is the key to all that. Now, of course, you've heard us mention in the past, and we'll continue to tell you this, get to a life in your 3-day get a life getaway, and we'll help you create your vision. The other thing, Peter, that I think is important too, is to kind of take an assessment where you are in life. And if you're not getting the results you want, it's just a matter. What I think is oftentimes looking at where your focus is going. Like if you're not where you are in life, whatever it is, your job, your relationship, your health, look at what you're focusing on in that area. And my suspicion would be that you're focusing on something outside of your control, right? Or you're focusing on the wrong things. When you focus on the right things, the actions will follow. And now you get the results you want, and then this whole thing will start to give you more of what you're actually looking for, right?
Right. One thing that you mentioned that I heard, I think it needs to be kind of explored a little bit is you said focusing on the solutions versus problems. Another way of saying it, am I focusing on the stuff that I don't want, or am I focusing on the stuff that I do want? And what ends up happening in these kinds of situations like we are right now, a lot of times there are people who are focusing on the stuff that they don't want. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get that, so I will do stuff to make sure that this doesn't happen, right?
Right.
So my solutions or the stuff that I'm doing is with the focus on what I don't want. Now, instead of thinking about that, what if you started focusing on things that you do want? Instead of saying, well, I don't want to be stuck at home, right? Because of what's going on. Well, what do you want? Well, I want to spend time with the family. I want to, play games. I want to, this is a great opportunity. By the way, I've seen this with some of my students in this entire year, they've had so many amazing revelations when it comes to their own visions. Because, before COVID, they created this vision. And now a lot of them got to experience some form of that vision, and that actually empowered them to keep going further and faster to get to that vision.
Yeah.
What I mean? Because...
Well, it's interesting you say that because, we've seen, you and I know a lot of people that are lifeonaires, and a lot of, one of the first things we encourage people to do is get that vision. And what we've seen, gosh, and it's been about a year now, really, since all this has happened, just about a year. Yep. The lifeonaires that I've seen do well and thrive, and even in some cases prosper better than they were before, were the people that had the vision, and they looked at the vision, and you know what? They wanted to spend more time with their family. They're getting to do it now. They're wanting to travel less. They're getting to do it now. They are looking to have more time to go to the gym. They're getting to do it now. And so like, it all comes down to kind of what you focus on and having that reference point. The other thing I think it's important to focus on, like I mentioned before, is, what's inside my control and what's outside of my control. Is focusing on this helping me or hurting me? I don't check the news that much, hardly ever, really. Sometimes I'll check the markets, things like that. But I don't check the news a lot because it's so much negativity. I'm like, why am I gonna like check this out? I mean, of course I don't want to be ignorant, but at the same point, most of this stuff doesn't matter to me. It just doesn't matter. And all it's doing is putting me in a bad mood or distracting me or making me more callous or cynical about the world. And like, I don't need that. I want to focus on the good things. Speaking of which, like, you guys may have heard of something called the Good Newsletter. It's free. You can subscribe. It's an email you get, like, I don't know, it's once a week, once every other week. And it's all news focused on good things. And so I'll read that and I'm like, wow, this is helping me. Right. And so it's not just what you don't want and what you want. It's like, is this helpful or is this hurtful? Okay. So you got to start having a more discretion around what you expose yourself to, what you listen to, what you focus on, all of these things. When you can align that towards positivity, towards internal control, right? The things that you can make a difference on, like that's the turbocharge. That's the turbo booster for your life, for the results you want in your life.
So here's what just popped into my head. I want you guys, those listening right now, consider this. Consider that your brain, your mind, is like a sponge. All right? It's like a sponge that absorbs as much as dry sponge. So when you pour water on it, it absorbs that water very quickly, right? So you can either pour clean water on it, meaning the stuff that's going to be positive, that's going to help you, that's going to grow you, that's going to help you contribute to the world, that's going to get you closer to the vision. Or you can pour dirty water on it, the stuff that's like negative, that stuff that's going to take you away from the vision. So you have to protect that sponge from the dirty water because it will absorb. Your brain absorbs information like you would not believe. Like, have you ever experienced of reading some kind of an article or something online that doesn't align with your beliefs, and all of a sudden you feel upset? It's because your brain is absorbing it, and now it creates a thought, and then that thought creates another thought, and another thought, and another thought, and another thought. And before you know it, those thoughts have meaning, right? Because if I have a thought that's upsetting me, it creates a meaning, and that meaning starts to, send signals to my brain, and brain is releasing the chemicals in my body. And pretty soon the chemicals that are being released in my body are the ones who are getting me upset, as opposed to the one that make me feel good. And so you have to protect your mind like a fortress. Well, man,
as you're talking about that, like I picture the sponge analogy is great. I pictured you have two buckets. One is clean water and one is like, sewage, right? Like which one are you going to put your mind in? Which one are you going to put your sponge in? And along those lines, another metaphor for this is, who are you surrounding yourself with? That bucket isn't just comprised of the news. It's not just comprised of, things going on around you. It's also the people around you, because birds of a feather flock together. We've all heard this before, right? Like, you want to get fleas, lay with dogs kind of thing. So you got to realize that the people you surround yourself with are equally as important in all of this. And that's why, like, Peter, you and I have been incredibly blessed to be around a lot of lifeonaires who are creators of their own destiny and who are designing their path towards freedom and abundance and prosperity. And so you got to be careful of that too. Like, so do you have people in your life that are kind of, I don't want to say pulling you down, because that's, again, it comes back to personal responsibility, but you got to realize you want positive influences in your life as well.
Yeah. It's like I keep saying, you got to protect your mind, and you got to be very intentional about where you put your mind to, where you expose it to, what I mean? And when you start thinking from that perspective, I'm being intentional, and you're, zooming through, let's say, Facebook, which, by the way, it's not a very good place to get that clean water, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
But if you start scrolling across something and you come across this video and you notice, is this video going to help me, or it's going to get me closer? It's going to get me upset, or it's going to get me whatever, right? And you start being intentional about what you're doing on the daily basis, on a moment-to-moment basis. Pretty soon you're going to be able to go and start focusing on what you do want, the stuff that is going to help you get to that vision, and create some goals, the short-term goals, some waypoints, and start executing on those. Just a little one, like I'm going to head to the gym, and the thing is, I go to the gym and guess what? There's 14 monitors in there and 5 of them have news on, right?
Right.
So how you avoid that? Well, what I do is I put music in my ears and I just focus on the music and focus on me, right? I don't look at the monitors. And you have to be very intentional about what you expose yourself to. That's basically, and then focus, It's like stuff that I can control or stuff that I can't control.
That's it, man. So just to summarize, focus on you. It doesn't matter what's happened to you in the past. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter where you are right now in life. I promise you, when you focus on yourself, what's within your control, what you want, what you're moving towards, those are the things that will help you live the life you want. Again, this is all coming from a place of love, because we've seen what works, we've seen what doesn't work. And we want you to be on the side of the people that are really happy with their life and love what they're living. So listen, a couple things. Number one, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. We hope that it's made a difference for you. Yeah, Peter.
One thing that I feel like I need to put in there before we end this thing. If you're feeling unfocused or you're feeling like you're all over the place, you talked about, am I focusing on the past or am I focusing on the future? And one of those things that gives you some uncertainty. So the solution to that I would have you guys do is get present in life, get present with your kids, get present with your, significant other, get present with yourself, right? Keep coming back to being present and what you're doing right now in that very moment. And by doing that, you're going to be able to refocus on yourself to be able to get to where you want to go. So get present. Great
suggestion, man. So if you like this, go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends and family about it. Also, if you want to discuss this further with us, go ahead and do it in the Life Inner app. Peter and I are both in there. Just tag us in the post. If you have no idea what we're talking about here, you haven't been listening to Life Inner show often enough. The Life Inner has a free app that you can download to your iPhone or your Android device or desktop version. Find it in wherever you download apps, or go to lifeinner.com for the desktop version. Also, we have a little something special for you that we're doing right now. Now, I don't know if it's still going to be on when you listen to this, and so hopefully it still is. But right now we're offering a free book promotion. So this means you can get a digital copy of the best-selling Life Inner book for absolutely free. Go to lifeinner.com and download that. And this is a book that's been changing lives all over the world, and it's sold tens of thousands of copies. It's just like on fire, and it's awesome. So if you want to experience that for yourself, it'll give you a huge mindset shift as to how you're living your life, and it's really powerful. So I suggest you grab that for free.
Great resource to get refocused. By the way, that book is.
Absolutely. Well, listen, as always, it is a privilege, and we are humbled to serve you. Thank you for listening. And until next time, get that focus going. Focus on you, what you want, not what you don't want. Focus on what you want, where you want to be, and make incredible things happen. We'll see you next time, everyone.